the source node, site coordinator will enter the same data into the CRF. Okay, that is one type of data collection. Another example. As I said, we have different channels of receiving the data, right? So data flow, we need to
Patient
understand.
diaries.
Exactly, right? So in some cases, like where protocol says that we need to collect the QOLs, like quality of life questionnaires, or even similar type of questions of health, okay, wherein patient can answer the question from their home. Okay, so in earlier days, patient diaries were in the form of paper diaries, okay, like the printed one patient used to take at home and then read it and answer the question by tick mark, right? And then that patient diary was sent. When patients are coming to the site, they used to carry it and hand it over to the site, and then site scanned it and send it to the data management team. Or if it's a paper-based study, then the actual patient diary will be submitted to the data management department. This was in earlier days, but later on we have electronic patient diary, right? We also have e-pros nowadays. So what happened, you have the same questions but it's in the electronic form, okay, or it may be like online web portal wherein they have to log in, and on the basis of schedule, like they will be given like, okay, these are the visits wherein you need to provide the answer for all the questions into the diary. Then once they provide all the answers to the questions, then they can submit, okay, they can click on submitting, so that data will also be received. Okay, then another example is, can someone tell me another example of data flow from where the data has been generated? Any other example?
From vendors.
Very good. Example of vendor.
A CRO.
Yes.
CROs.
No, CROs are vendor, that's true. But we are talking about the data type, which type of data we are getting from different vendors. Like from site, we are getting the source data document, right? Source data, which will be entered into the CRF. From patient diary, we are getting the data from the patient directly from the iPad or any other online systems, right? So we have centralized vendor. Example is lab, central lab, right? So what happen if you have a bigger study, like maybe oncology or even bigger one, transplantation or other, and if you have a number of patients like which is in high amount, in such cases most of the sponsor recommend to have a centralized lab, okay, wherein the sample will be collected at the site, and that sample from all over the site, if the study is multi-center or multi-site, then sample will be collected and sent to one centralized lab wherein all the assessments will be taken care, okay, and the results will be sent later by the centralized vendor directly to the CDMS, okay. And on the CRF, you will have basic questions. For example, if a subject has to provide his or her blood sample or any other sample in maybe visit 3, for example, then on visit 3 CRF, we will also have the question like whether blood sample collected, yes or no, right? Then date of the sample collection, right? And time of sample collection and so on. Like only the basic questions, but we will not have the results on the CRF. We will have only the question whether it is collected or not, okay? And in the central lab data, when they provide that data to us, we will have the results. In that case, we also perform the reconciliation of the data, like, whether this data is belonging to the same patient or not, is the data like date of the sample collection, visit, and so on are matching with each other or not. So that's a reconciliation procedure. We will have that in a separate lecture, right? We have a external data reconciliation lecture. So these are the type of data flow, right? From where the data is getting generated, analyzed, and then till the end, right? And then once we receive in the data management, we analyze the data, like we do discrepancy management, we do reconciliation and other data cleaning activities, right? And then it will be cleaned. Okay. So these are the data flow, data capture, right? And data entry and data transfer we talked about. Then the study setup part, how we are going to set up the study, in which software we will be setting up the study, which version we will be using, which coding dictionaries will be using, which type of reconciliation we will be doing, right? And all the activities which are coming into the setup part will be given into the DMP. Okay. Then you have medical coding. Like few people, they do medical coding outside of the database, like maybe using the Python or other way. But most of the CROs or most of the pharma companies, they prefer to have medical coding inside the database. Like you have integrated system inside it. Okay. So you need to explain it, what type of medical coding procedures you will be following. Okay. Then you also have safety data management. As I said, assay reconciliation, for example, how we will be handling the assays, right? We will also have to compare it with the safety management plan. So both the documents will be reviewed by both the parties, right? Then which type of external data we are receiving. So there are multiple type of external data, like you have lab data, some device data, right? Some biomedical device data. You also have like ECG, MRI, CT scan. You also have PK, PD data, right? So type of external data which will be given into the protocol will also be given into DMP. Then you will also have a type of milestones. Okay, milestone means if it's a major deliverable, like go live is one milestone, like you have completed your setup activities and then your database is into the production, right? Then that's your one milestone. Similarly, you will have interim analysis, right? So when some patients have completed X amount of visits as per the protocol, okay, it will also be given into the protocol, and the data will be cleaned till that visit, and then the data will be analyzed by the biostatistician and other stakeholders. So they will do the interim analysis. Interim means not at the last level, but interim. Okay. So such milestone, okay, even database lock is a biggest milestone, right? So all type of milestone will be given into the DMP, and regarding that milestone, there will be timelines given. Okay, for example, when interim analysis should be done, when database lock should be done, when all the data should be clean, what are the timelines, what are the frequencies of any procedures, like you have external data reconciliation, safety data reconciliation, you have medical coding procedures. So what are the frequency, whether it's monthly or bi-weekly or even every 6 months, right? So depending upon the data type, you also have which type of data format we will be receiving. For example, are we receiving SDTM format, or are we receiving CSV format like Excel from the safety database, right? So all those things will be given into the DMP. Then you will also have archival of the data, how you are going to archive it, right? So depending upon the sponsor's requirement, which type of reports are being generated. Like sometime sponsor asks metrics report, like, it will have status of the study. Like once the study is in conduct part, then they want to see the status, like for example, how many patients are enrolled, how many patients are screen fail, how many patients have been randomized and treated, right? And then what is the status of coding, what is the status of data cleaning, how many queries are there, how many total queries, open queries, answered queries, actioned queries. If there are any queries which are pending since long time, do we need to follow up, right? Reports may also have budget, right? If we have in between database update or protocol amendment happen and we need to do update to the database, which needs some time and also budget. So sometime they add it into the report, but it could be different in different company, okay, depending upon the company standards and SOPs. So those type of reports will be generated. Then quality, of course, right? So yesterday we saw how much importance we have in the overall clinical research, right? So quality is really backbone for standardization for data, right? So what type of quality system is implemented, like how and what type of percentage QC will be done, right? For example, if someone is working in discrepancy management, right? So who will be performing QC of it, quality control check, right? How often it will be done? What is the frequency? How much data they need to review? Like sometime, like mostly it is not 100%, but sample, like if one person has cleaned maybe 10 patients, right? So a QCR can be reviewing all those 10 patients, but few things only, most important things may be related to safety and efficacy first, and then other thing. Sometimes what happen that you take sample, like 10% sample of all data, but sometimes it is recommended to do quality check for 100% data for the safety, okay, which is related to the patient safety. Like you have adverse event data, you have medical history data, you have treatment data, right? Medication and concomitant medication, IP, like you have efficacy data as well. So they might ask you to do 100% QC of the work, right? So this is one type of QC, like in discrepancy management. There will be another type of QC. Quality check is at each and every level within the data management, okay? Even if you develop the database, right? You have the CRF developed, you perform the QC in the form of UAT, user acceptance testing, right? You test it whether the database is working perfectly or not. Do we need to change it? Okay. Similarly, you also test the data type, whether the data is being entered into the system, is it as per the expectation or not? Are the queries are being generated by the system or not, right? You have QC in each and every step within the data management. So those type of quality thing will be given into the DMP. Okay. Then you have the most important thing, roles and responsibilities, right? So as I said, we have different procedures in the data management department, right? So who will be doing what activities will be given into the DMP, right? So sometime what happen, one person may work on multiple activities, whereas in other, like maybe big CROs, or when they have bigger studies, you may have individual department within the data management. For example, some people are dedicated to work on only on discrepancy management, okay? Some people are working only for the database setup, okay, in the conduct part. Some people are dedicated to medical coding only, like medical coder, so called, right? We may also have safety data manager who will be working only on safety data, okay? So in other hand, in small CROs, or when if the study is smaller and you don't have much data, then one person can do multiple activities, like data manager can also perform all other activities. Yeah. So depending upon the roles and responsibilities, the tasks will be allocated, and that will be given into the DMP. So these are few example, okay, like what could be the components of the DMP. These are the minimum components. There will be many. So I would quickly show you an example. DMP. Okay, so this is one of the document, data management document, wherein you can see what are the table of contents, what is it at industry level, right? So if you see here, you have the very first thing is your approval page, right? So approval page is very important because the person who is drafting it, who is author of the document, will be having their name. Then reviewers, people who are responsible for reviewing document, and people, or the responsible parties, maybe sponsor and other stakeholder who will be approving it. So we need to get the signature of them so that we will consider it as sign in, dated and approved, right? Then you may have introduction of the DMP, what is the purpose of it, what are the scope of it, then protocol summary, like in short, what is the protocol objective and all other thing. Then yeah, I already talked about scope, then data sources from where the data has been generated, personals like roles and responsibility, you have risk identification. This is very important, okay? So how you are going to identify the risk and how you are going to manage. Example is while performing protocol review, you realize that, okay, this is transplantation project, okay, wherein you may expect lot of serious adverse event, right? So if you anticipate the risk that there will be lot of SAE, we need to make the robust plan and we may need more resources, right? So you can plan accordingly. So this is called as risk identification, okay, in advance, or risk anticipation, right? Then how the project management will be done, right? What are the type of CRF softwares we will be using? Will that be eCRF, paper CRF, and which database we are going to use? Data definitions, like how you are going to develop the database, right? The specification, you have mapping and transformation of the data if we have. So a few things are applicable or not applicable depending upon the project. Yeah. Testability, like how you are going to test the data. System access, right? A very important topic, like user management we called. So who is responsible for giving the system access, revoking system access, training of the databases, right? Then data system used and versions, right? So which database you are using, which type of software development lifecycle you have, change control, like when you are developing the database and you are changing few things into the database, even after the production database, when you have anything to be changed into the database, that will also be given here. Yeah? If you have any system integration, like if you have external data integration, right, then you have calibration and these things. These are if required or not. You have privacy and confidentiality, system security, backup, right? Data processing, QC, database lock unlock, archival, and so on. So these are the examples of the content. So these are the company specific. You may have different in different companies, okay, but this is a standard one. Okay, any question till here?
No, sir.
Okay. So we have discussed almost everything in one slide, okay? But we have a lot of slides, so we will go through quickly on it. Yeah. So You have data flow, right? We already talked about data flow, from where it is being generated, type of data flow, like when you perform discrepancy management, right? So you have type of discrepancies like auto query, like system generated, data management query, who have generated manual queries, monitor or CRA queries, right? Then how you are going to solve it and so on. So all the discrepancy management will also given here, along with the other type of data flow, from the data generated at the site till the database log, how data is flowing from one place to another place, right? So that will be given here. Then type of